Thank you so much for joining Minding My Business, where every single Tuesday we bring on a powerhouse guest that are going to teach you some golden diamonds or some diamonds, or drop some diamonds on you on how to elevate your business, your mindset, and your life. I see our guest on today, Katie. I'm going to bring her up real fast and we will do a nice little intro. For those of, as we ask Katie to come on up, we're going to just do a quick intro. Kate McKay, sorry, I think I called you Kate. The next guest is Katie. Kate McKay, CEO of Sienna Strategy Group, is an international best-selling author. She's a best-selling author, and which is Claim Your Inner Badass, a transformational speaker, athlete, podcaster, and multi-million-dollar business owner whose passion is to spread her message of living a life of confidence, courage, and clarity on purpose. I love this. Okay, Kate, you coming on?
What up?
Yay, it works. Hello, Kate. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm minding my business.
Super stoked. Can't even stand it.
Is there anything that I missed? I try to because there's so much you've been doing. You've been coaching for 30 years. You've been impacting so many people. You and I got to share some time together at the event a month ago. I heard a little bit about your story, but the impact of how you've been able to transition your pain into power and also help so many other people along the way. So thank you so much for being on today.
Girl, it's my honor. And you know, it's so funny. I look back at the pictures that I took at that absolutely incredible event we met that you spoke at. And like the picture of you and I, you know, you can tell looking at pictures like, yeah, those people could, like literally you and I were like sister friends. I love that picture. I'll cherish that thing forever.
I know. We like even kind of look alike. I was like, oh my gosh, we look like we're related.
Totally. Absolutely. And, you know, thank you for inviting me on here and for the impact, obviously, that you bring into the world. And I'm looking forward to supporting you and supporting the audience to really come up with some actionable ways that we can make a difference.
Yeah. And I think just by being is one of the most impactful things you can ever do is like leading by example. I feel like people need to not only I want to be told, but I also want to be shown. So tell me, kind of break it down and then show me. And I feel like you're one of those most authentic people that do both. And in order to really have an impact, you have to be it. You have to be what you teach. And I get a lot of people that are like, it's interesting. A lot of coaches, they're not what they're projecting out there. They're actually doing the complete opposite. And so just by leading by example is what makes the biggest impact in people. How did you get into
the only way, right? I mean, in this day and age and in this market and in an industry that's so saturated like coaching, right? It's the bottom line is we need to have the science and the research behind what we do. We have to be knowledge-based and we have to speak from the heart. So we need both. And sometimes we only need to be one chapter ahead, but we're still going to be ahead of the curve. And you and I talked in our heart space about how both of us been slammed down by life, right? And then what perspective did we gain from that? And how do we lead people out of the dark into the light? Because personal development is that journey. And I'm here casting a light. Sometimes it's a spotlight. Sometimes it's, you know, it's a flame. Sometimes it comes in all shapes and forms, but I'm deeply moved by my work and I'm deeply committed to it.
I know you speak with such conviction. It's like hard to not be persuaded because you are, and it's impacted your life. But what actually got you into, I'm always fascinated to hear like the story behind the story. Like what got you into the line of work that you do today? And I know you run multiple businesses, you podcast, you're an author, but what got you into this work of personal growth and development and performance?
Well, I would say two things. Number one, I'm ADHD super classic. And so I get shipped off to private high school when I was a junior in high school because it's like, whatever, all my siblings were into like drugs and alcohol. And I was like, nah, I like boys. That's my drug of choice. So off I went to an all girls high school. So what happened there is I found theater. And what I learned was that all I had to do, legit, was pay attention, to listen to what someone said authentically, and you get an A. I'm like, this is how I live my life. I don't know any other experience but the present moment. It's all I know. So what I learned was that has actually been pivotal in my success. And I built a gold company. I owned a gym got out of that, and then started buying and selling gold, direct buy. So like a reverse, Tupperware party. I don't even go to baby showers and wedding showers that give me anxiety, but it was basically that. I was buying a home business, but it was a buy and I wasn't selling anything. I was buying. I was writing people checks. So I had like 50 women working for me. So it went from me being a stay-at-home mom, 3 young kids, financially stressed, 2008, we know what was going on then. And I built it into a, 17, $18 million company as a stay-at-home mom, flipping grilled cheese on one hand and buying and selling gold on the open market on the other. It was absolute insanity. The business was built on relationship. People trusted me because I am who I am, because I have no time to be anyone else. And that became particularly clear after, as you and I discussed, both of us have gone to some tragic loss, but it was the suicide of my son. And today, man, that sometimes I say that, it just like stabs me, man. I lost my son, Will, my angel, man. That kid was friggin' gorgeous in 2017 to suicide. And that, talk about bringing your ass into present moment. That brought me into present moment. And it became extremely important that I got laser clear on how I was going to heal through it and be able to still add value. We have mission statements in life, right? It's us as coaches, we help people come up with these. And mine is to live powerfully with courage and enthusiasm. That's easy to do when your life is jamming. But yeah. I remember waking up and going, God, really, man? I got to figure out how I'm going to keep moving forward. I have 2 other kids. And I got to keep moving forward. How am I going to do that enthusiastically? Well, you better believe I figured it out, that we can do grief enthusiastically. Enthusiastic means in God, means in the divine. I'm like, I got that. So, for me, I'm here to be a role model that there is a way we can transmute grief and have it be a transformative experience and not destroy us.
Wow, that's so powerful. And I think because those times will really, really do make or break somebody. How can I operate at peak performance when, trauma happens? Like you said, great things happen, but when they're not great, how are you still showing up in life? And what would you say some of your non-negotiables are that really helped and still help to this day operate at levels regardless of what's going on, the good, the bad, but if they're negotiated, you're just not showing up enthusiastically, as you say?
Well, non-negotiables for me is I listen to my gut and I listen to my instinct, and I'm extremely trustworthy, but if I can read things, right? So I have to be extremely careful because I'm very spiritually directed. And so I don't take any bullshit. So if people are paying me a ton of money, I'm paid to push, dude. I'm paid to push. So, and I do it with love, and I'm convicted in my love for my clients. I'm convicted in my love. But if you tell me you want something and you're not living it, I'm going to call it out. I had a client last week go to me, Kate, and he gave me his whole, and I'm just like, listening, the whole dog and pony show. And he goes, what? He goes, you think I'm full of shit? I'm like, yep. And he was like, and he just started burst out laughing because he had sold himself this whole story and he was telling me it. I'm just listening, watching it unfold. And I didn't have to say anything because he heard himself. That's what we do as coaches. We have to let our clients hear themselves. Mm-hmm. That's the gift. Clients already know all the answers. We're just here guiding them like sheep herders.
And that's funny too, that you're like, and they say, well, you don't believe me? Like, do you really believe yourself?
Yes.
Or else why would you ask that?
Yeah, like dead on. He's like, you don't believe me, do you? And I was like, no. No, I just was like downright.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But so I know
that level of honesty, T, right? Because people don't necessarily come with that level of honesty. I love you enough to tell you the truth.
Yeah. And that's powerful too, because if you're thinking about it, I always say, like, if we can't even be honest with ourselves, how are we going to be capable of even being honest with anybody else? You're not even capable of it.
No. You're just not. And if you can get away with it for a little while, and I think that that's really what we're looking at, and why our work right now is so important, and why there is an 8% increase year over year in the coaching model. And that's because businesses are going to need us bad when the economy really takes a dive. It's going to happen, right? And the leaders, this is right now a time of the most productive, creative people right now in business, who are dancing on the fly, who are learning, who are growing, who are adding value. These are the people that are going to thrive. We are going to be the helpers, right? So everyone else was like, you know what? No, just, buying Bitcoin. I'm just growing biz. Like, they had never understood hardship and down times. Those people are going to need a lot of support. And that's why I stay physically so healthy and spiritually so healthy and mentally so healthy, because I know I'm going to be called in. I know I am. It's just a matter of time. And so I take that commitment very seriously. God and I are pretty tight.
Mm-hmm. That's so amazing. And you mentioned briefly, because we were at the conference together, and something you and I there's a lot we have in common. I think that's just why we align. But one of the things is your fitness background, and you mentioned like physically aligned, and the significance of like that being your non-negotiable, because you do come from a bodybuilding competition background.
Yeah, right. I'm a bikini competitor. So I started competing after my kids at 43. And I found the gift of it because I have ADHD, it's that hyper focus ability. So as an athlete, as I focus on a competition, right? So I get something 6 weeks out or 8 weeks out, I'll write a book, I'll create a program. Like the competition isn't even that big of a thing for me. And I'll still like go in and try to win. It's not like I don't. But it's the ability of like the spiritual quest of coming to the top of the mountain, right? My son, who passed, was in a Buddhist monastery. He was very, so this is the deal. People who are deeply spiritual tend to be very gritty people, because you have to understand and be able to embrace suffering, okay? It's not that you can deny suffering. My son used to sit and meditate for 8 hours. I'd be like, babe, I'm going to go work with clients. He'd look right at me and go, grinning. Like he could literally, and he was a gymnast. He could play Chopin. You would weep. This kid knew grit, okay? So when we're going and we're trying to achieve something, we must understand that we will come to obstacle. We will face ugly parts of ourselves, not just other people. Look in the mirror. We're the ones that we're waiting for, really. But ultimately,
when you're coming across, like, if you consider them like ugly people, like it's also a reflection of what we're suppressing within ourselves, and that's that external expression of it.
Right. And the thing is that when you're a bright light, or when you're a truth speaker, you get haters. It's like, I'm always shocked by that. I'm less shocked now. But I've had a lot of adversity. And part of it is honestly, T, because I'm older than you a little bit, right? Or a lot of it. When I first started lifting weights, dude, no one was in the gym. Girls weren't in the gym. Okay. So I'm talking the 80s. And people who lifted weights in the 80s, they were considered stupid, vain, all this negative attributes. Like, you just care about what you look like, and you're not smart. So this is what I had to go up against as a woman, right? This isn't like I see girls in the squat rack and I'm like, you got no idea. You have no idea what I had to do what you're doing. And I'm not saying that like tooting my horn, but I want people to understand that my commitment to fitness wasn't because of a vanity thing. I wrote a book called Claim Your Inner Hottie that's coming out, because I'll go speak in an event, T, and I'll talk about building businesses. I'll talk about self-worth. Every single woman after, and even dudes, but mostly women. That's really interesting. How do you look like you do? They drag me into the bathroom and they want to know that and I don't even teach fitness. It's how I manage this and this, right? It's a spiritual quest. And I'm always fascinated, but that is what people are called and most curious about. So we think about the 3 areas of expertise: health, wealth, and relationships. Can I talk on all 3? Yeah, big time. But, right, I feel like lately this is the biggest aha, that the revelation is that people are asking me about my health. Why do I deny it? Why do I deny it and try to say no, but I know other things? I'm deflecting the gift. That's a big aha for me in the last week. I'm not even kidding you, T.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, that's, you're like, really? I got so many other things to.
But look at me, man.
But that's
I went to
okay.
law school.
But that's okay because, like you just said, when you get somebody, at least just getting them going, the physical is the bonus, but it has so much more impact on quieting the chaos of our mind.
Yeah, big time.
And the mental strength. And you mentioned such a powerful word, hyper focus.
Huge.
And isn't that like such an asset for all entrepreneurs? I mean, any business owners, right?
Well, I think it's the intention, and this is the thing. When I watch like exercise videos, because I'm creating a bunch of B-roll, but when I see myself doing a set or doing an exercise, I'm always surprised how deliberate I am in prepping for a set. Like I'm jamming on some big weight. I'm always like, everything is a process of preparation. Well, why the hell do I not always apply those same methodologies to everything in my life? Right? So it's like how you do one thing is how you do all things, but it's that intentionality of making sure I'm 100% in alignment and ready and in the present moment. And that's what I want everyone to see. When you're seeing people do exercises and they're executing a great exercise, watch how they go into that exercise. That's like greatness. Is watching how someone approaches the bar, approaches it. What are they doing? What system do they have in place to get themselves focused? A ballet dancer, right? What is she doing, right? A great athlete, a person that's getting ready to speak on stage. Where are they going? And learning about that, I think, is key. It's not just in the performance, it's how they lead up to that and get present so that you can A-game.
Yeah, and I know, like, even with that, I consider that being one of the most challenging sports because you really, like most athletes, like, what sports did you play growing up?
I'm one of 9 kids. We had no money. So I would have been a really good athlete. I wanted to be a gymnast, right? But I went to Performing Arts High School to do gymnastics, and I'm with girls that are playing at Symphony Hall, and they're being able to do all these tricks, and I'm like 1 class a week, right? I sucked. My life has been a continual, perpetual situation of me being in a place where I suck over and over again. I suck. I'm the worst one. I suck. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Right? But no, I had no athletic. I had none because we didn't have the cash. I was always outside running. I was always walking on my hands all the time, swinging. I still swing. If there's rings, I'm swinging in it, girlie. I love to swing. But I didn't have anything. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a sport. I didn't have a coach. I had nobody. I didn't fit in ever my whole life. I always felt like, where am I? Even in my own family.
That's fascinating though, and I feel like God's put you in those positions so that you've built the resilience. Whoa, sorry. You've built the resilience to be able to be successful with the areas that you're in today. Just turn that on silent. Sorry about that. What would you say, because that's an interesting way, I think, even like moving forward as far as like that mindset and how you were able to transition that pain into your power. Like, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be in positions and they're going to quit on themselves. And, we see this all the time and it's unfortunate. And you mentioned you sold gold. I just finished actually the book called Outwitting the Devil. Have you read it?
No, I'm writing it down.
Oh my God, it's by Napoleon Hill. It wasn't released for like 75 years, finally released. And it's just, they say 3 feet away from gold. And sometimes we're just 3 feet away and we quit. And if people don't have the mental resilience or the mental endurance to keep up with themselves, but like being put in those positions of consistently failing, face planting and feeling like you suck all the time and you're the worst person in there, like what was like a mindset that you told yourself to like still move? Because it's impactful, it's important. I'm curious.
Because I always knew that what I was leaving had to be better. And forward, it had to be better. It's positive expectancy and downright foolishness. It's downright foolishness in some ways, because it, you know, there is that psychological term of positive expectancy. And yeah, I'm a pretty positive person, but you consider the fact that my brother was murdered he was 22, and it blew my family apart in a lot of ways. I'm from a family of 11. And then fast forward, my son commits suicide at 22. My mom's 54. I'm 54, right? That's an easy place for me to say, oh, I'm just repeating a pattern. I'm out. Peace out, peeps. No, I was like, oh God, you're calling me to this level. Really? Let's play. Let's play. And it was more of a self-honoring, but it's also to honor my son. And everyone's watching me. You know, if I'm a public figure, if people know who I am. Oh, Miss Positivity K. Oh, she competes in bikini. Oh, she looks a certain way. Oh, she grew this business. Everyone thought my life has been easy. They don't have any idea, right? So that piece of it, I think, resiliency is expecting that you don't have a choice to go backwards, because I had no safety net behind me, dude. I had no safety net because I was like nothing I left. There's no safety in that.
Yeah.
You got to burn the ships, because there wasn't a net, right? There wasn't a net for me. I never felt like there was a net, that I had to strive forward and knowing that there were good things ahead. Mm-hmm. And that people were waiting for me, honestly. That's a big one. I was like, someone's there waiting for me. I know I can help someone up there, right? I'm thinking I'm helping somebody. It's always like there is something in front of me that someone's going to need my help that's waiting for me. That's what drives me. That's what makes me get up in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I live, and I'll tell you this thing. I'll tell you what keeps me the most humble is I don't want to live where everyone's the same race as me and the same economics. I don't like that. In fact, I lived in Park City, Utah, all white, extremely rich. I used to go get my hair done down where all the drug addicts lived. I'd be like, let's go. I'm home, you know, because I just like to be around people that are suffering and know suffering, because those are the people you see the greatest amount of hope oftentimes, because they still know that the most important thing is love. The most important thing is kindness. You lose perspective when you have so much.
This is so powerful. And then that's why I created this show too, is like real talk. Like I want to have these real conversations, because people are going to look at your stories, they're going to look at your page, they're going to look at your accomplishments, but they're not going to see the road to those things. Mm-hmm. And they're maybe by one thing that you said just gave somebody inspiration to get back up.
Mm-hmm. True that.
And especially women, you know, especially women, and creating more community for that. When I love also talking about pivoting, I feel like this conversation isn't spoken about. And pivoting, just for those of you that don't know what pivoting is, like I played ice hockey. So for when we were pivoting, we would go, and then if we had to make a quick decision because we were in danger, or the whole drill like ended up going back to the other side, you had to be able to like move quickly and like go in a different direction. So I feel like life, especially these last few years, people have had to been able to pivot quickly. What is like one or some of like your best strategies on pivoting?
Well, I think you got to trust your gut. And I'm not saying that just like, you know, this kind of cliched way, but you have to have some level of strategic thinking. I'm a very quick thinker, but I'm also strategic, and figuring out where do I cut my losses on things that just aren't worth the effort. So it's weighing out the level of effort. And because I've tried and failed so many times, and I have greater wisdom in knowing how I can discern. So the word if anyone's listening or whoever's listening, write that word down, discernment. Because a lot of people don't really understand what that word means. Mm-hmm. And there's such thing, like all the old Christian mystics understood discernment. Discernment's a spiritual practice at a high level, high evolving level. But discernment is sort of like being able to look at something and saying, maybe yes, maybe no. Let me sit. It's very Buddhist too. Mm-hmm. And my son being a Buddhist, he taught me a lot, you know. But I think ultimately, this is what I'll say to you, is that everything, as far as the pivot is concerned, if you know at the highest and best that love is the highest form of all things, and the only way to get back to that highest form of love, because that's our journey. We're all, namaste is not just the light in me sees the light in you. Truth is, and together we're walking each other home. We're all walking each other home. How do we do that with grace? And if we know ultimately love is the highest form of all things, I don't know what else would there be, right? It's only two ways to get to love in my book. Taking personal responsibility, big one. Not being victimized. I'm not a victim of my son. I didn't take responsibility for my son's death. I think that freaked people out. They're like, oh my God, you're the mother. You're supposed to feel like you could have stopped it. I'm like, what? Yeah. First of all, that's ridiculous. How ridiculous to think that my son didn't have free will. His name was Will, for the love of God. Okay. He had free will to do his thing, and he made a choice, and he chose me as a mother to help him live this life. I'm honored. How would I feel like it's not my responsibility. It's his responsibility, right? So taking personal responsibility, number one, and then forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't just like, I forgive you. I forgive all this child abuse. I forgive, for you had a lot of work to go through with your forgiveness, right? But it's forgiving yourself. And forgiving yourself, and let me make clear what that means. It just means I forgive myself for what it means. I forgive myself for hoping that someone would love me the way that I believe that I deserve to be loved. That I kept hoping. That's what holding anti-forgiveness is, right? Is we hope that something was a different way. Why didn't they just love me? Why didn't they love me? So that's a big pivot in conversation, but I think it's an important one, because ultimately, if we look, that's the journey, and everything we do, both personally and professionally, is to live in alignment and be true to who we are, so that we know at the end of our life, at the end of every day, I put my head in the pillow and said, I did right by people. I have nothing to forgive myself for today. That's it. Highest. I have no regrets about it, because I go to bed with a clean slate. I don't lay in bed going, oh my gosh, why'd I say that? Yeah. It's like, no, I listened. And if I owe someone's apology, I will say, I'm sorry. And I will also say, I also forgive myself for expecting you were going to be the person that I was hoping for. That's not me.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is just you're like hitting me in the heart. I feel like you're hitting everybody in the heart. I love it, because it's like, these are things that need to be brought up more about, and you can tell like you're speaking from an authentic place, and it's just so beautiful. And thank you for that, for being vulnerable and real, like we're all human, we're all human. Yeah. What would you say as far as like, so this is kind of, I would like to talk more about this. I feel like you're the person for this.
We're talking about sex?
Huh? So what?
We can talk about sex?
Yeah, I mean, when we get into relationships, for sure. I mean, okay. I feel like we're going to talk about the power of reserving your energy, because that's a big part of just more vitality and living life more vivaciously. But I think the biggest thing, which this actually is going to be the extension of this core question, which is, you're talking a lot about the connection with God, the connection with your relationship with God, and your faith and your trust, which comes down to trusting higher consciousness, which is within us. What are some core ways? Because a lot of people, I get asked this question, like, well, I don't trust myself. And if we don't trust ourselves, how can we trust in God? So what would you say?
That hurts my heart.
Yeah, it hurts my heart too. But I mean, I was in this position at several points in life when I personally didn't want to be here anymore. I was suicidal in life, and I feel like it's the closer, even the connection. So a lot of people there's core things, have low self-worth, lack of self-trust, lack of believing that they are important enough to prioritize themselves. And these are real conversations.
100%.
Were you ever in a point where you felt connected from your self-worth, your importance, or trust?
Oh God, yeah. I couldn't talk about the self-worth if I didn't suffer from deep self-loathing and self-hatred. Yeah. I did. Of course, I never fit in. I was like, I must be a freak. First of all, because only John, Mark, Joe, and Katie get yelled at. Does that mean I'm a guy? Like, I could never like be quiet. I was like too busy like wanting to talk to people. So I was like, didn't even identify. I'm like, am I really a girl? Because how come only the boys get yelled at? I must be like a guy or something, you know? It was just like bizarre, right? So I think the journey back to self-love, and let's just talk about it another way, because oftentimes women use this language and men don't even necessarily resonate. But I came up with this thesis with one of my clients. So we hear about self-love. It's kind of weird for a guy oftentimes because they don't know what it means. How about self-honoring? How does that fit? How about self-respect? How does that fit? It's a tripod. Our growth is a tripod: self-love, self-respect, and self-honor, right? Because those words are different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very different. Very different. So we have to own that. It's not like, oh, just love yourself. That sounds easy, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to go get a massage. Like, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? But what does it mean when we self-honor? What does it mean when we self-respect? How does that feel? Where do you feel that in your body? We have to go somatically into it, feeling experiences. Our first operation in our humanness is not our mind. It's our somatic body. When we are afraid or we are experiencing experience, our body somatically responds. We know this now with the latest neuroscience. Come on, look at it, right? And then it goes to thought. And then it goes back to the body. And we use words. So many people are shut off from what their body feels. God is in feeling. God is a human experience. We must feel so that we can speak our truth. If we disassociate from what somatically is informing us, we disrupt the actual flow of goodness. We do. And I would say what has to happen is there is such thing as, you hear, this is kind of funny, but I had this whole conversation with someone yesterday that he's like, yeah, and I talked to this person and this person, this one. So a lot of his experiences is based on his conversations and relationships with other people. And I'm like, that's so awesome. I was like, do you have a spiritual practice? And he was like, yeah, kindness. I go, that's awesome. Wow. I said, but I'm thinking, that's interesting. Like, do you ever introspect? Like, for me, I do a lot of introspection. I do minimal there's actually a word, introspect, extrospect. I don't really judge my experience by what other people view my experience. And I think that's unique because I literally sit with myself a lot. And is it comfortable? Not always, right? But I know I need to sit in that introspection. My primary relationship is a vertical one, though. It's me and spirit. That's my primary. It's 80% of my life is spent in this vertical relationship. Only 20% of my life is on these horizontal relationships because I don't have time for that noise. It takes me out of my vibe. I need to be in this relationship so I can be in the highest level of service. Excellence is in that level of discernment. Again, we go back to that freaking sexy ass word, discernment.
Hey, it's Tanya. I'm calling a quick timeout intermission huddle, so bring it in. I'm personally inviting you to our inner circle. It's our monthly VIP meetup with other achievers just like us. Each week, I'm teaching everything you're going to need in order to be successful, to step into the most elite version of yourself. I'm going to break this down play by play, the tools, the systems, the strategies, everything you're going to need in order to operate at higher levels mentally, physically, emotionally, and energetically. Look, we're in a season where the idea of full potential just isn't cutting it anymore. It's time to really be it now. So click the link in the show notes and I'll see you in the inner circle. Peace. So as we're talking about relationships, because I'm like, okay, let's at least make it flow because I wanted to ask that one first. Since we're talking about relationships and the significance about relationships, and you're like, let's talk about sex. I'm like, I'm realizing more people want to talk about that. I mean, that could be a segment of it, especially for single people. I don't know if you're in a relationship. I'm personally single by choice or for right now in this season of my life. And until I meet somebody that matches my energy. And in the meantime, I'm reserving my energy and transmuting it through my meditation practice to reserve it. So I am celibacy personally.
Nice.
Once I understood that as a woman, when you do have sex, you give away pieces of you. And I think it's an important conversation to have. And I think you might like, I don't know. I would love to hear what you have to say on that because you did mention it. So I was like, all right.
Well, I know. Let's right on. Let's do it. Well,
it.
our bodies are sacred, right? I mean, that's the cool thing. And I remember like when I was like 14 or something, I'm like, Mom, like I can't stop eating. And she's like, Katie, you're a very sensual thing, and eating is a very, you're a very sensual person, and eating is a very sensual thing. And I was like, yeah. So I've always been very at one with my sensuality. Like, it's just like, I just know the power of sensuality. I think it's amazing. And, it's one of the benefits about having children is they're touching you and you're nursing them. And it's just very touchy, right? And so, as I said, boys were always my drug of choice. But I've realized too that it's the same path for you, right? It's like being on that place and understanding that as women, we are the receivers. We are divine just because we're lucky enough to be the ones that get to receive. Like, come on now, lucky us, right? But also understanding that we are not men. And how do we get back to the time where it becomes a sacred process? And I'm not talking like that you're not having great friggin' awesome sex and whatever, wild and friggin' having a blast, right? But it's not like, oh, money pot me. It's got to be this like, we only can do it like, no, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how do we get back to understanding that our beingness as women, just by our biology, peeps, we are built to receive. I've always thought I was lucky for that, right? But I'm coaching a lot of young girls, and there's a lot of young people. And I'm finding for some reason that a lot of younger guys want to go all with Mama Kate, right? Which is kind of funny. I'm like, really? Okay, why? Sort of interesting, but okay. Let's have a conversation. I'm curious. But anyway, the younger girls are like, there's so many women that are giving it up so easy. So it's lowering the bar. And I believe it's making it more difficult for men, because how do men learn about who they are if they don't have to stake their masculinity by claiming a woman, by that search that all men are built to hunt biologically. And we've chopped men off out of their own experience. And that's why I wrote Claim Your Inner Warrior, my book for men, which here's the cover of it. That's my son Will on the cover. That's my son who passed. He was a friggin' warrior, man. And Claim Your Inner Badass. That's my bestseller, Amazon. But but literally, it's a disservice that we're doing for men and women. And our sexual sense is our spiritual sense. Our spirituality and our sexuality are very tied in. They say that oftentimes the people that are most spiritual, sometimes people read it as sexual energy. I've heard my whole life, Katie, you're so sexy. And I'm always like, why you say, like, what about me is so sexy? Presence is sexy. Presence is sexy. Being present is very sexy to people. And so now I'm understanding that power a little bit more, treating it a little bit more sacred, not giving it away, right?
Yeah. And I think that too, like having healthy outlets, like transforming it into different things. That's why I got into salsa dancing. It's very sensual.
Sexy.
And you can be sensual without over sexualizing yourself.
Right.
And that's because it does tie back into our personal power. And even us, you talked about self-honoring, self-respect, and not just because you're giving your energy freely. And that's if we're talking about is even self-mastery, self-discipline, that's even
totally
control your sexuality and how you're just, you can't, it's any type of addiction. We're talking about addictions and cravings and desires. It's one of them.
Totally. And then how do we make it the process holy? And it doesn't mean it only can be sex that leads to marriage. I'm talking about how are we honoring the union as being a holy union where it comes with that self-honor, self-respect, and self-love as the unifying factor. And, that sounds kind of woo and everything else, but at some level it really isn't. It's just being like I had, I was dating a guy and it wasn't respectful, like him not showing up or whatever. And I asked for something. I put my need out there. Listen, I'm a coach. 80% of my life, I already know this, is I give more than I get. It's just the way it is with me in my life. It's the way it's been. And I understand my journey. But I was like, oh, dude, like, that's just not at my level. Right. And he was like, oh, I know, Katie. Like, I know. And so I told him this was where the level is. And he's like, okay. And you have to give something that they can meet to. Yeah. This is where I am. Oh, okay. And then right. And I'll tell you this one thing. If someone asks you out, you don't have to give them excuse. This is it. I heard this from my coach, and it's priceless. And they'll ask you out, and then they're really not that one. They're not right for you, whatever else. And you go, I'm flattered and I can't. I'm flattered. That's nice that you asked me, and I can't. And so the man will go, wait a minute, she can't, but she's flattered. So what do I need to do to prove to her that I'm good enough for her? Because it's just telling the guy, you're not at my frequency, but I'm flattered. Like, thank you, right? And it's not like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. It's, I'm flattered and I can't. Yeah. And all that's saying is, rise, baby, rise. If you want me, it comes with a higher frequency, powerful. So try that out next time you get hit on.
I mean, I'm pretty blunt. I'm like, I don't think we're at the same energetic level, but thank you so much. I mean, that's how I say it, but
yeah, I love it. Right. No, but it's perfect. It's awesome because you're confident enough to know and speak from your energy level. Where if we're talking to, like, lower frequency people, they just won't get that. And I would say to you, 90% of people wouldn't get that. They'd be like, what do you mean higher energy, right? They just think, oh, she's being a snob or whatever.
Yeah, but I feel like if I have to explain that to somebody, then it already funneled them out anyway, especially when, and in that book that I was telling you about, they say like the two things that will really get to you are the people that your partnership, and also like the business people, and then the people that you call friends.
Exactly. I love that.
Piece is that one intimate person that you allow to share that one thing that you're not sharing with anybody else. And so if they don't understand energy or matching up, then we don't speak the same language. And that's like the core of
everything,
how we're operating. Yeah. I mean, you said it too, like our frequencies don't match. It's like, we don't like the same music. We're not on the same channel.
Yes. Trying to tune in. Hello, Tokyo.
But you said it like way more polite. So I get like the different categories. I had a friend one time, like even talking about business, and he said this, and I was like, wow, I feel like it's the same of what you're saying as far as relationships. And he was like, you have to give everybody a number. And like you said, you gave like a bar, and if you can't meet me at that bar, then we just can't go. But he's like, you give people a number of an expectation, so this way you're not disappointed. And I think
100%. Expectations are a kiss of death. We cannot use expectation because expectation is projected disappointment. You have to speak your need. What I value is this, and what I need is this. When I tell you what my need is, you can do it or not do it. I wasn't telling that guy, dude, if you want to hang with me, you gotta book. No, I was like, babe, that's just not on my frequency, boo. You know what I mean? Like you get higher, as Les Brown would say. I'm not telling you have to. Where expectation is, if you want to be with me, you got to do this. Because I only want people to do that if they are called to do that. That is sacred calling, right? Yeah. There's no expectation because that's just a bummer, right? But if we know our value and then we speak that need, what I need is, it's chill if that's not okay by you. Totally chill, totally get it. Free agent.
Free agent. Bye.
Mic
drop. So I got some friends on here, and I love this conversation because then I like to kind of transition into as far as like friendships, and as you grow, and you've been through so many situations where you've put yourself through growth and life has forced you to grow. And with your growth, the people that might have been at that same mirror reflection of you at one point, but as you outgrown or
sucks.
Season, like what are some what are some ways that either maybe your friends have risen with you, or a pivot transitional out of that relationship that you know might?
Many relationships I've had to let go, and I've learned to now do it with grace. But I have many relationships that I will say energetically, I was dragging because I wanted them to be with me, because I believed in them that they could do it, right? And not everyone's called to where you're going. And I talk about this all the time with my clients, right? But then I realized that that's unfair of me to expect people to rise at my same frequency just because I love them. And so at the earlier stages of this rising and this higher calling, when I was more attached, especially prior to Will passing, there were relationships that became untethered unpleasantly. And now it's like, wow, man, like that's the same thing. It's like, that's just not my frequency. I love you. If you need anything, you know, from my heart, I will always be there. It's just that's not vibing. And it's basically, there's this, like, I remember I'm writing a book called The Transformative Power of Grief, but it's this whole idea of like a bomb goes off after we have experienced grief. The whole life and landscape is different, right? And so we look around and things are covered that used to be uncovered. And things are covered that were once uncovered. So it's a whole new terrain. And oftentimes the same people don't fit in that terrain when we've been jetted upward in a transformative awakening. And man, this is tough. And that's why I met you at the perfect time. I'm like, new tribe. I was happy. Yeah. So it's like finding people at your same frequency brings me so much joy. And I had to shut those doors in order to bring that frequency in.
But where did we meet? You paid to put yourself in a position where the people you wanted to be around would be. And I think people 100%. Need to understand that.
And well, I actually came in support of Matt because he saw me speak at an event the weekend before, and that was his first event. And I'm like, dude, I'm coming to watch you. And he's like, you'll come? And I'm like, well, hell yeah. No, I got there because I was a fan of someone that was a fan of me, and we bonded over like our spiritual connection. And I drove right to Miami.
He just shed some love on here a little bit earlier. I think Matt was on here.
Oh, I love him.
He's my two favorite people. We're like, yay.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because he's the same age as my Will. He's an Aquarian like my son Will. So God brings all these younger men in my life. I jam with the younger men. Even that's so funny. Even those age groups want to date me. I'm like, no, dude. but I'll work with you. But that's the funny thing, right? It's just God is mysterious, and how all of a sudden I get to work with that free age frequency because I generate. It's my vibe. I get that energy.
But so I think and I've noticed a lot of people in that generation, they crave stability and strong women and men. You know, stability. Totally. Like the strength and I mean, this show is for women, you know, we have all women on here, but a lot of men show up and we support our men. We love our men. We love you guys for coming here and coming through. Of course, you're going to learn so much here, but it's also to celebrate and build community for women.
Love it.
So
let's go. High frequency babes and dudes.
Yeah, our youth for sure. I mean, I guess what would be more of the advice for people that the position that you were saying about before, because I understand that as well, that they don't have a hard time, like they're so attached and they've stayed there for too long. How do you know when you've outgrown a relationship? Like, how did you know? If you could go back and like give that younger part of yourself.
Don't we all know though when a relationship sucks? You kind of know, right? You know, you get the feeling in your stomach it ain't right. It's just that we don't necessarily see the path out, right? But if we tuned in for a minute, our body would tell us. You got that wrenching feeling in your stomach every time they walk through the door? Yeah, right? You're somatically, your body does not lie. But that's why we use drugs and alcohol and sex and porn and everything else. Let us numb our asses But
Yeah.
do you know, when you look at the statistics, you can Google it, I'm not lying, the average phone is tapped 2,653 times a forking day. How
Wow.
distracted are we as people that we're putting ourselves in such a state of cortisol freak out that we have to make that many decisions. Do I like it? No, they got too many likes. Do I not like it? Judgment, 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 judgment. Frying our soul that many times over in a day. 2,653, really close by 100, something like that. So, yeah, right. So it's like, what are the ways that you're actually able to sit with yourself and then reach a hand out and say, I am waiting. I need help. What I need is someone to help me show the way. And dude, that's why you and I do what we do. Because we know we can be that objective lover and love on our clients enough to guide them out and be able to help them by casting light on them and showing them the way, providing tools. So that's why I'm a high performance coach, because I have a science-backed, research-based system based on the high performance habits. So clarity, energy, influence, productivity, necessity, and courage. Right? Courage isn't just like, I can do it. No. Courage is about speaking your truth. That takes a lot of courage to do that. Game changing. And realizing, my poor, sweet friends, that there will people that will need to go, because you will not be in your greatness. And in your heart, if you're listening to us now, you know you want more, because you wouldn't be listening to me and T if you didn't have a longing and a calling for more connection, more love, more success, just more in your heart, right? So that's the deal. You got to understand, in that vertical relationship, I am here for more, and I will find those people. I have goosebumps because I am in that seeking mode of finding those people ready for more too, because I'm sick of doing it alone, because I've had to do it alone way too long. I'm done with that. I'm like, where's my discipleship?
And sometimes the discipleship is you being alone for a little bit.
And then knowing what those core values are that you need, and only those people can make it over the moat. And you're in charge of lowering down the drawbridge, and then those people can come through. But you have to be, that's, again, we're going to go back to that thing of discernment. The people I want around me have these qualities.
Yeah.
Then it makes it kind of easy, right? Because then you're so tuned into your own inner response that you get a better sense. Because then you see, like for you and I going to that event that you and I went to, that was all way younger people. I was the oldest biatch in the group, but I felt more comfortable there because they were modeling what I want my success to look like. Notice how many of those people were in solid relationships.
Yeah.
I'm like, amen, there it is. A 28-year-old is doing it right. Lead the way, dude.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned a core thing is like the ability to make decisions on your own. You know, when you're around so many drifters, you know, you're drifting. It's one of the greatest like ways to make you talk about living a life confidently, purpose. One of the ways to tear you away from that stuff.
And, you know, people, I'm just, you know, really just, I know we're wrapping up, but just one key point, like people will ask me about confidence a lot. It's oftentimes what will come up in what people want to talk about when I'm getting interviewed. Kate, how can you be so confident? And what I will say to you is that confidence only comes through action. So I'm a person of action. Even if I'm crawling out a hole, I'm in action. Right? It's like Les Brown says, life will knock you down, but just always make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up and see the light, you can get up. So get up and take small right action, because confidence and competency are directly linked. And the only way we can get more competent if we take action. And we're going to suck at the beginning. We're going to fail. Go, yay, I failed. Celebrate each failure and analyze your lesson. Again, we're going back to that word, discernment. You got to know your lesson. I can give you the war, here's the scroll. Let me tell you everything I learned. It could go on and on and on, right? But it's because I've analyzed it, and I've done the autopsy. And the key point of confidence and competency is understanding that you have a responsibility to future cast your life. You have to future cast. It's not, we don't get taught that. What's future casting? Oh, well, that's imagining your great future and how you want it to look and who you want there with you. And then we backcast it into this present, delicious, amazing moment of right now, me and T on IG.
You mentioned something, actually, you kind of went into my last question, which was like, if you could give somebody one like golden diamond, I don't know why I keep saying golden diamond, I want to like combine them, but like one diamond, because diamonds are formed under high intense pressure. That's what I love about them, is because you're a diamond. You are a diamond, and you shine so bright, and you shine the way for other people. But you could give somebody like one thing that will impact their day-to-day life, and it's something that they can apply today. What would that one thing be?
Breathe. And sit and journal and embrace the suck, because you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be really uncomfortable. And if you're too comfortable, nothing is going to happen there, boo. You got to bring in some people who are going to help you be uncomfortable. You got to be uncomfortable. And, you and I, that's our work, to make people uncomfortable and love people through the uncomfortable. I would never be where I am right now if I didn't hire it. There's no way in hell. So if you're not willing to spend the thousands of dollars it takes to grow, you ain't going to grow. I've spent thousands of dollars on my personal development because I didn't have anybody in my life that helped push me. Since my first class in life, my teachers have always been hard on me, never gentle. I'm like, my dance teachers were brutal. My writing teacher, I was like, why are they picking on me? I should have known that was a good thing. I used to get like, why are they picking on me? Because they weren't gentle. My teachers and guides are not gentle. My lessons aren't gentle. Pay attention to the way the messages that you're already getting. And sometimes it's not going to come in rainbows and sprinkles. Our best gifts sometimes are wrapped in fork and sandpaper. Hate to tell you. Pay attention.
Those are facts. Okay. Facts on top of facts, sister.
A fact sandwich.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You just spread so much impactful, authentic, truth-based information that if you guys are just tapping in now, go back and watch the replay. This woman is a powerhouse of so much light, truth, love, and you're just amazing. It's an honor to know you. It's an honor to call you a new friend and a sister, and I'm so grateful. This show is man, I'm so excited. I'm sure we could go on for hours and hours and hours, but thank you so much for being on the show and helping others elevate their business, their mindset, and their life from this interview.
I'm honored, and I'm honored to walk this heart-centered path with you, my dear sister, as well. So let's go. Let's
go, bro. Thank you guys so much for being on Minding My Business. Go ahead and follow Kate. Drop her some love, shed some love, send her a message. She's got so many things going on. Podcasts, books, coaching. As you can see, she's the real deal. And love you guys. Thank you guys for sharing your energy with us today. And we hope that you found so much value in today's episode. Till next Tuesday. Bye.
Peace out.
Bye.